The reluctant recruitment. Captain Drell Vokshin had 3 unbreakable rules that had kept him and the merchant vessel Celestial Nomad profitable for 15 stellar cycles. Never trust a Morcadian with your encryption codes, always keep a backup quantum navigator, and absolutely never hire a human. The first 2 rules had saved his carapace countless times. The 3rd rule was about to be broken. Captain, the applicant is getting restless. First Officer Zilks announced, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing anxiously. And frankly, so am I, a human. Have you lost your neural functions? Drell's compound eyes narrowed as he studied the application hovering on his data screen. Ilara Chen, human, age 34 standard cycles. Former Alliance military engineer. 5 years on deep space salvage operations. Impressive credentials, but still, a human. We've been through this, Zilks. After that quantum drive failure on Persephone Station, half our engineering team abandoned ship. We have contractual obligations to fulfill, and a shipment of Uridian crystalline matrices that won't deliver themselves. But a human, Captain. Their planet has nearly twice our gravity. Their bones are like durasteel. They can survive radiation levels that would cook most sentient species, and their capacity for violence. I'm aware of human physiology, Drell interrupted, his mandibles clicking with irritation. I'm also aware that we have exactly 3 solar days to deliver our cargo to the Kaltoran Consortium before they void our contract and blacklist us across 3 sectors. Zilks's tendrils darkened to a deep indigo. Very well, Captain. But when this human starts consuming actual deceased animal tissue in the mess hall or breaks someone's exoskeleton because they forgot their strength, don't say I didn't warn you. The door slid open, and Zilks reluctantly ushered in the human applicant. Drell had encountered humans before in spaceports and trading hubs, but never this close. Ilara Chen stood a full head taller than him, with olive skin, short black hair, and a posture that somehow managed to be both relaxed and alert. Most disconcerting were her eyes. Brown, perceptive, and unnervingly focused. Captain Vokshin, thank you for considering my application, she said, extending a 5-fingered hand in the traditional human greeting. Suppressing his instinctive recoil, Drell briefly touched her hand with the tip of his foreleg. Ms. Chen, please, take a seat. The reinforced chair creaked under her weight as she sat down. Drell noted how she automatically adjusted her movements to account for the ship's artificial gravity, which was set to Arthelian standard, approximately 0.7 Earth normal. Another reminder of the human's adaptability. Let me be direct, Ms. Chen. Your qualifications are impressive, but humans have a certain reputation in the galactic community. Troublesome, reckless, prone to punching our way out of situations. She smiled, showing those flat herbivore teeth that somehow seemed more threatening than Drell's own mandibles. That's fair, Captain. We can be a handful, but we're also adaptive, innovative, and extremely effective in emergencies. Your previous employment ended rather abruptly, Drell noted, scrolling through her record. The salvage vessel reclaimer. Care to elaborate? Something flickered across her face, too quick for Drell to interpret with his limited understanding of human expressions. Creative differences with the captain, she replied evenly. He believed certain salvage finds should be unreported to the Galactic Registry. I disagreed. Interesting. The human had principles. That could be either an asset or a liability, depending on the circumstances. One last question, Ms. Chen. Your file mentions specialized training in hazardous environments and emergency protocols. Our previous engineer left after an incident involving a shipment of Tauran biotech that turned out to be less dormant than advertised. How would you handle such a situation? Chen didn't hesitate. Isolate the affected systems immediately. Adjust environmental controls to create inhospitable conditions for the biotech. Usually extreme cold works well. Rig a portable EMP device to disrupt its neural network, then contain it in a magnetically sealed unit until proper disposal or delivery. Drell and Zilks exchanged glances. The answer was not only correct but more thorough than expected. "That's surprisingly effective," Drell admitted. "Alliance training, Captain. We plan for contingencies," Shen replied with another of those unsettling smiles, "including the unlikely ones." 3 hours later, Ilara Chen was officially the newest crew member of the Celestial Nomad. The decision had been pragmatic. They needed an engineer. She was qualified. But as Drell watched her effortlessly haul equipment that would have required 2 of his species to move, he couldn't help questioning his judgment. "She doesn't seem so bad," remarked Krill, the ship's Loraxian navigator, his feathered crest rising with curiosity. "Quiet, efficient, knows her way around a quantum drive." "She's been aboard for less than 1 ship cycle," Zilks countered. "Just wait until she shows her true nature." The crew's initial wariness around Chen was palpable. The Triskelion twins who handled cargo operations chittered nervously whenever she entered their vicinity. Mord, the cantankerous Voltraxian medical officer, refused to be alone with her, citing the unpredictable biochemistry of apex predator species. Only Taz, their Vexillian communications specialist, showed genuine interest, bombarding Chen with questions about Earth's thousands of languages. For her part, Shen appeared either oblivious to or unbothered by the crew's reactions. She quickly identified and repaired 3 long-standing issues with the ship's propulsion system, optimized the matter recyclers to improve efficiency by 14%, and even helped Krill calibrate the navigational array, all without complaint or apparent need for rest. "It's unnatural," Zilks insisted during the daily officer briefing. She worked for 26 straight hours recalibrating the quantum drive. No breaks, minimal sustenance, barely any water. No evolved species pushes themselves that hard without reason. "Perhaps humans simply have greater endurance," Drell suggested, though privately he shared Zilks's unease. The efficiency was welcome, the dedication admirable, but there was something unsettling about Chen's intensity, like she was running from something, or toward something. On the 3rd day, disaster struck. "Captain to the bridge, emergency." Krill's panicked voice screeched over the intercom, jolting Drell from his rest cycle. When he arrived, the bridge was in chaos. Warning lights flashed across every console, and the main view screen showed 3 sleek, predatory vessels rapidly closing on their position. "Pirates?" Drell asked, settling into his command chair. "Worse," Zilks replied grimly. "Harvesters." Drell felt his stomach acids curdle. Harvesters were infamous throughout the galaxy, specialized mercenaries who harvested rare technology and specimens for the highest bidder. And right now, the Celestial Nomad was carrying some of the rarest crystalline matrices in the quadrant. "How did they find us?" "We're running silent," Taz chirped anxiously from the communications console. "Unknown, but they're hailing us," Zilks reported. "On screen," Drell ordered, straightening his posture. The view screen flickered to show a saurian with obsidian scales and cybernetic eye implants. "Captain Voxian, this is Commander Vrex of the harvester vessel Silent Reaper. You carry something we want. Surrender your cargo, and we may allow your crew to live." "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about," Drell replied, keeping his mandibles still to hide his fear. The saurian's forked tongue flicked out in amusement. "The Iridian matrices, Captain. Our employer has offered a substantial bounty. Far more than whatever the Kaltoran Consortium is paying you. Your ship is outgunned and outmaneuvered. You have 2 minutes to decide." The transmission ended. "Options," Drell demanded, looking around at his bridge crew. "We run," suggested Krill, his feathers bristling with anxiety. "Their engines are superior," Zilks countered. "We fight," offered Taz, more enthusiastic than practical. "Their weapons are superior," Mord gurgled pessimistically from the medical station. "Where's Chen?" Drell suddenly asked, noticing the human's absence. As if summoned by her name, Chen's voice came over the comm. "Captain, this is Chen. I couldn't help overhearing about our little problem." Drell frowned. Where are you, Chen? In engineering, sir, with our precious cargo. I have an idea, but you're probably not going to like it. Drell exchanged glances with Zilks. I'm already not liking it. What's your plan? Remember what I said about humans being good in a crisis. I need you to trust me. When they contact us again, agree to their demands. Tell them you'll open the main cargo bay for transfer. Then, on my signal, I need all power diverted to the forward shields and emergency thrusters. That's not a plan. That's suicide, Zilks exclaimed. 30 seconds, Captain, Taz warned. Drell closed his compound eyes briefly. Chen, whatever you're planning better work, or we're all going to be space debris. It will work, sir. Humans are also really good at improvising. The Saurian commander reappeared on screen. Your decision, Captain Voxin. Drell swallowed his pride. We surrender. Preparing main cargo bay for transfer. Commander Vrex's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused. Wise choice. Approach vector data incoming. As soon as the transmission ended, Drell turned to his crew. You heard Chen. Prepare to divert power to forward shields and emergency thrusters on her signal. Captain, this is madness, Zilks protested. Probably, Drell agreed, but I'm curious to see what the human does. Minutes ticked by intense silence as the harvester vessels moved into position alongside them. The massive cargo bay doors began to open, revealing the cavernous space within. Now, Captain. Chen's voice suddenly crackled over the comm. Do it, Drell ordered. What happened next would later be described in Drell's official report as controlled chaos, though there was precious little control involved. The emergency thrusters fired, sending the celestial nomad lurching forward just as the lead harvester ship was aligning with their cargo bay. Simultaneously, a blinding flash erupted from the open bay, followed by a wave of crystalline energy that engulfed the nearest harvester vessel. On the view screen, they watched in stunned silence as the harvester ship's systems failed catastrophically. Its lights flickered and died, its weapons powered down, and its engines sputtered into silence. What in the seven moons just happened? Zilks demanded. I believe, Drell said slowly, that our human just weaponized our cargo. Before anyone could respond, Shen's voice came through again, slightly breathless. Captain, I've bought us a window. The lead ship is disabled, but the other two will regroup quickly. Recommend immediate jump to hyperspace. How did you? Drell began. No time to explain, sir. Let's get out of here first, debrief later. Drell turned to Krill. You heard her. Plot a hyperspace jump now. As the celestial nomad accelerated away from the disabled harvester vessel, Drell couldn't help but wonder just what kind of asset, or liability, they had brought aboard. One thing was certain. Ilara Chen was far more than a simple engineer, and humans were even more unpredictable than he had feared. Yet somehow, for the first time since she'd come aboard, that thought wasn't entirely unwelcome. The unforeseen value. You turned our cargo into a weapon, Captain Drell Voxian stated, mandibles clicking with a mixture of disbelief and reluctant admiration. Ilara Chen stood before him in the conference room, arms crossed casually across her chest. The rest of the senior crew, Zilks, Krill, Taz, and Mord, watched with expressions ranging from awe to lingering suspicion. Not exactly, Captain. I created a resonance cascade using one of the Iridian matrices as a focus point. It generated an electromagnetic pulse that temporarily disabled their systems without damaging our cargo. She shrugged those powerful shoulders. Basic crystal harmonics. Anyone could have done it. Anyone with human intuition and Alliance military training, perhaps, Zilks noted, her bioluminescent tendrils now glowing a curious amber rather than their earlier wary indigo. The matrices are intact. Drell pressed. 97% stable. The one I used as a focus point suffered some microfractures, but I've already contained it in a stasis field. The Kaltoran consortium won't even notice the difference. Drell leaned back in his chair, compound eyes studying the human engineer. In just 3 days, Chen had repaired long-standing ship issues, optimized critical systems, and now saved them from certain destruction or capture. Yet something still didn't add up. Ms. Chen, I appreciate your quick thinking, but I must ask, why did a former Alliance military engineer with your obvious talents end up on a salvage vessel, and now seeking employment on a merchant ship like ours? Something shadowed her face, that same fleeting expression he'd noticed during her interview. The Alliance and I had philosophical differences after the Proxima incident. The infamous Proxima incident. 5 years ago, an Alliance research station had gone dark after reportedly discovering some ancient technology. Official reports claimed it was a catastrophic system failure, but rumors persisted of something far worse, and of a lone human engineer who had managed to escape. You were there, Zilk said, tendrils now pulsing with rapid-fire light patterns. Chen nodded once, her face unreadable. I was. What the Alliance found shouldn't have been disturbed. When they insisted on weaponizing it, I made sure they couldn't. Her eyes met Drell's. I'm not a weapon, Captain. I'm an engineer. I fix things, solve problems. That's all I want to do. The room fell silent. Even Mord, who had been maintaining maximum distance from the human, leaned forward with interest. Well, Drell finally said, you've certainly solved our immediate problem. The harvesters will be busy with repairs for some time, and will reach the Kaltoran Consortium in 16 hours. After delivery, we'll need to find a new contract quickly. Actually, Captain, Chen said, pulling out a datapad. While monitoring communication frequencies during our escape, I picked up an automated distress beacon. It's coming from the Varan Nebula, approximately 3 days at standard speed. The Varan Nebula is notoriously hazardous, Krill chittered nervously. Radiation storms, spatial anomalies. And salvage rights, Chen finished. The beacon appears to be from a precursor vessel. If authentic, we'd have legal claim to whatever technology remains viable. A precursor vessel. The ancient, highly advanced species had vanished millennia ago, leaving behind technology that formed the foundation of modern galactic society. Even damaged precursor artifacts could command prices that would make their current cargo look like trinkets by comparison. It could be a trap, Zilks cautioned. The harvesters could have planted a false beacon. Possible, Chen conceded, but the signal uses encoding algorithms consistent with authenticated precursor transmissions. I've cross-referenced it with Alliance databases I still have access to. Drell's mandibles clicked rapidly as he calculated risk versus potential reward. A successful precursor salvage operation could secure the celestial nomad's financial future for years. Very well. After we deliver our current cargo, we'll investigate this beacon. He fixed Chen with a penetrating stare. And perhaps you'll share more about your apparent expertise regarding precursor technology. Chen smiled enigmatically. Of course, Captain. 3 days later, the celestial nomad entered the swirling gases of the Varan Nebula. Vibrant purples and blues danced across the view screen as Krill navigated the treacherous spatial currents with admirable precision. Radiation levels within acceptable parameters, Mord reported reluctantly. Though I must protest exposing our biological systems to such hazards for mere profit. Noted, Doctor, Drell replied dryly. Taz, any response to our hails? The communications specialist adjusted his auditory receptors. Nothing, Captain. The beacon continues its automated distress signal, but there's no response to our transmissions. I'm getting a visual, Krill announced excitedly. Magnifying now. The view screen shifted to reveal a massive vessel partially obscured by nebula gases. Its design was unlike anything in modern galactic architecture, organic yet geometric, with flowing lines that somehow conveyed both function and artistry. Even damaged as it clearly was, the precursor ship emanated an aura of advanced technology that made the celestial nomad seem primitive by comparison. By the 7 moons, Zilts whispered, her tendrils glowing with reverent blue light. "It's beautiful," Chen said softly, and Drell was surprised to hear genuine emotion in her voice. "Life signs?" he asked, turning to Mord. The medical officer consulted his screens. "Inconclusive. The nebula interferes with our biosensors, and precursor materials are notoriously resistant to conventional scanning." "We'll need to board it," Chen stated. "I volunteer to lead the expedition." "Of course you do," Ziltz muttered, though without her previous animosity. Drell considered his options. The human had proven herself capable thus far, and if she did have prior experience with precursor technology, that knowledge could be invaluable. "Very well. Chen will lead, with Ziltz and the Triskelion twins as support. Take full environmental suits and maintain constant communication. At the first sign of trouble, you return immediately." "Understood." All nodded in agreement. An hour later, the boarding party stood in the airlock, preparing to cross the void to the precursor vessel via a tethered approach. Chen checked her equipment with practiced efficiency, seemingly unconcerned about the dangerous crossing. "You've done this before," Ziltz observed as they waited for the airlock cycle to complete. "Spacewalks." "Many times," Chen replied. "No. Boarded a precursor vessel." Chen paused. "Yes." "And did everyone survive the experience?" The human's eyes met Ziltz's bioluminescent ones. "No." Before Ziltz could respond, the airlock opened to the void, and it was time to cross. The boarding went smoothly until they reached the precursor ship itself. Its hull appeared seamless, with no obvious entry points. "How do we get in?" One of the Triskelion twins chittered anxiously. Chen approached the hull, running her gloved hand over its smooth surface. Precursor vessels respond to specific frequencies. She pulled a small device from her pack and pressed it against the hull. The device emitted a series of pulses that seemed to ripple through the material. Slowly, impossibly, the solid hull began to part like liquid, creating an opening just large enough for them to enter single file. "After you." Chen gestured to the stunned alien crew members. Inside, the precursor vessel defied conventional spacecraft design. Corridors curved organically. Lighting responded to their presence by illuminating their path, and the very walls seemed to pulse with dormant energy. "It's still active," Ziltz marveled, her tendrils casting extra light in the dim interior. "Partially," Chen confirmed. "Auxiliary systems only. The main power core is likely dormant or damaged. We need to find the central command nexus." They moved deeper into the vessel, encountering increasingly complex architecture and technology. The Triskelion twins documented everything with their recording devices, while Ziltz collected small samples where possible. Chen, however, moved with purpose, as if following an invisible map. "How do you know where you're going?" Ziltz finally asked. "Precursor ships follow consistent design philosophies. The command nexus is always at the geometric center." Chen paused at an intersection. "This way." After 20 minutes of navigation through the labyrinthine interior, they entered a vast chamber dominated by a crystalline structure that pulsed with gentle blue light. Surrounding it were console-like formations that responded to their proximity by illuminating with complex symbols. "The command nexus," Chen breathed, approaching the central crystal. "And it's intact." "What does it do?" one of the Triskelions asked. "Everything. It's the ship's brain, power source, and navigation system combined." Chen began interfacing with one of the consoles, her fingers moving with surprising familiarity over the alien controls. "You can read precursor script?" Ziltz asked incredulously. "Enough to." Chen's explanation was cut short by a violent tremor that shook the entire vessel. "That wasn't good." "What did you do?" Ziltz demanded as another, stronger tremor rocked them. "Nothing. But something's happening with the power core. It's beginning to reactivate." Chen's fingers flew over the console. The nebula's radiation must have triggered a reboot sequence. A third tremor, powerful enough to knock them off their feet, was followed by an ominous groaning of metal and crystal. "Captain," Ziltz shouted into her communicator. "Something's happening with the precursor vessel. We need immediate extraction. Negative, First Officer. Drell's voice came back, distorted by interference. The nebula is becoming unstable. We've had to retreat to a safe distance. You'll need to use the vessel's escape mechanisms, if it has any. Before Zilks could respond, a section of the ceiling collapsed, blocking their entry path with debris. We're trapped, one of the Triskelions wailed. Chen was already moving, examining the walls with methodical precision. There should be emergency protocols, even after all this time. Precursors built redundancies into everything. Another violent shake sent them scrambling for support. The central crystal was now pulsing erratically, bathing the chamber in strobing blue light. We have minutes before the power core goes critical, Chen announced grimly. And when it does, it'll take half the nebula with it. What do we do? Zilks asked, all previous suspicion replaced by desperate trust in the human's knowledge. Chen's eyes narrowed as she made a decision. Something stupid. She approached the central crystal and, to everyone's horror, placed both hands directly against its surface. Chen, no, Zilks cried out. But it was too late. The human's body went rigid as energy visibly coursed through her. Her eyes rolled back, showing only whites, and her mouth opened in a silent scream. The central crystal's erratic pulsing gradually stabilized, matching rhythm with what could only be Chen's heartbeat. For an excruciating minute, Zilks and the Triskelions could only watch as the humans somehow communed with the ancient technology. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the connection broke. Chen collapsed to the floor as a new opening appeared in the chamber's wall. Escape, pod, she gasped, struggling to her feet with Zilks's assistance. Hurry. They half-carried, half-dragged Chen to the newly revealed chamber, which indeed contained what appeared to be 4 sleek, pod-like structures. Following Chen's raspy instructions, they activated the nearest pod, which opened to admit them. How did you? Zilks began. Neural interface, Chen interrupted weakly. Precursors designed their ships to respond to thought patterns similar to humans. That's why the Alliance was so interested in me after Proxima. I'm compatible. The pod sealed around them and launched with surprising gentleness, accelerating away from the deteriorating precursor vessel. Through a transparent section, they watched as the ancient ship began to glow with building energy. Captain, Zilks called over the emergency channel. We've evacuated in a precursor escape pod. Tracking signal activated. Acknowledged, First Officer. We have your signal and are moving to intercept. Status of the precursor vessel. As if in answer, the ancient ship suddenly imploded, collapsing in on itself before releasing a shockwave of energy that dissipated harmlessly into the nebula. No longer a concern, Captain, Zilks replied, looking at Chen with newfound respect. The celestial nomad retrieved them an hour later. By then, Chen had recovered enough to walk unassisted to the medical bay, though she submitted to Mord's examination without protest. Remarkable, the Voltrexian doctor muttered as he reviewed his scans. Her neural pathways show evidence of extensive interaction with non-organic intelligence, yet no permanent damage. Any other species would have suffered complete neural collapse from such contact. Is she fit for duty? Drell asked. Surprisingly, yes. Humans appear to have unprecedented neural plasticity and recovery capabilities. Later, in his private quarters, Drell reviewed the data retrieved from the precursor vessel before its destruction. The Triskelions' recordings and the samples Zilks had collected would fetch a considerable price from research institutions, even without the vessel itself. More intriguing, however, was Chen's apparent ability to interface directly with precursor technology, a capability that explained much about her mysterious past. A soft chime announced Zilks's arrival. You wanted to see me, Captain. Yes, First Officer. I've been reviewing our encounter with the precursor vessel and Ms. Chen's role in our survival. Zilks's tendrils glowed a soft purple, her species equivalent of a thoughtful frown. She saved us, Captain. Without hesitation, at great personal risk. Indeed, and in doing so, revealed abilities that make her immensely valuable, not just to us, but to powers throughout the galaxy. Drell's mandibles clicked pensively. Powers that might not have her best interests at heart. Like the Alliance, Zilts nodded. Or the Harvesters. Precisely. Drell turned to his first officer. Your initial assessment of Chen was cautious, bordering on hostile. Has that changed? Zilks considered the question carefully. She is still human, Captain. Still stronger, faster, and more durable than most of our crew combined. Still unpredictable and potentially dangerous. But she is also loyal, innovative, and apparently willing to sacrifice herself for her crewmates. Zilks's tendrils now glowed a warm gold. Qualities that are valuable in any species. Drell nodded. My thoughts exactly. Which is why I've decided to offer her a permanent position as our chief engineer, with additional responsibilities as our security officer. She'll accept, Zilks predicted. She needs protection as much as we need her skills. A mutually beneficial arrangement. Then, Drell rose from his desk. And First Officer. Yes, Captain. I believe I need to revise my third rule. Perhaps humans are not entirely to be avoided after all. Zilks's tendrils pulsed with amusement. I'll make a note in the ship's log, Captain. Though perhaps we should limit ourselves to just one human for now. Agreed. One Ilara Chen is quite sufficient for any crew. 3 months later, the reputation of the merchant vessel Celestial Nomad had spread throughout the quadrant. Not for its cargo capacity or speed, but for its unprecedented success rate in navigating hazardous situations. Pirates avoided it. Customs officials expedited its clearances. Competing merchants viewed it with a mixture of envy and respect. The secret to its success was no secret at all, but rather stood proudly in its engine room. A human engineer with remarkable abilities and a mysterious past. As other captains began to actively recruit human crew members despite their fearsome reputation, many cited the Celestial Nomad as inspiration. When asked about his human crew member, Captain Drellvokshin would simply click his mandibles in amusement and say, terrifying. Absolutely. Irreplaceable. Without question. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Sometimes you need someone even more dangerous on your side. And somewhere in the vastness of space, aboard a ship she now called home, Ilara Chen continued to do what she did best, fixing problems, protecting her crew, and demonstrating why humans, despite being the most terrifying species in the galaxy, were quickly becoming the most sought-after crew members on any vessel worth its ion trail.